Welcome back, everybody, to the Westlake Hornets Teambuilder Dynasty here on NCAA Football 14. Last episode, we wrapped up season number 15 with another national championship victory over Michigan. And today, we will be going through the offseason as we enter season 16, the final full season of the series. Of course, I do plan on simulating a few years into the future, but this is the last season where we will play all the games. So because of that, I think this makes this offseason certainly an important one. So of course, last episode, as I mentioned, we defeated Michigan in the national title game 42-28. The big storyline in this game was our starting quarterback, Anthony Cortez III, getting injured on the first drive of the game. The man who lost to Cortez in the QB battle, C.C. Vaughn, had to come in through relief, and Vaughn played quite well. So, very good performance from C.C. Vaughn, but he was not our best player because Isaiah Sparks ran for 181 yards and 5 touchdowns. Sparks obviously should have won the Heisman Trophy. He got absolutely robbed, and he took his anger out on Michigan here in the national title game. Sparks finished with 39 rushing touchdowns this season, which is an NCAA record for most in a season, and Sparks also led our team in catches and yards. So not only did he make a big impact on the ground, but he was our best receiver today, which is interesting because Isaiah Sparks is not a great receiver, but he was our best one in this game. Tegan Moon in his final game as a Hornet only caught 1 pass for 1 yard. Cassius Troy in his final game, 1 catch for 11 yards. But Troy had a massive fumble recovery early in the second quarter, and had he not picked that one up, we probably would have lost. The defense was a little bit shaky, specifically the secondary. Justin Graves was not good, but he got the game-winning stop at the end of the game. Florentino Phoenix was not good for most of it, but he had the game-winning forced fumble late in the fourth quarter. And Joe Lilly, who's been one of our best players this year, he also was not good in this game. Our kicker, Zebediah Phoenix, did not have to do a whole lot. Phoenix has had an up-and-down season, but the second half of this season, obviously, he's been marvelous. Here's a quick look at the Michigan numbers, by the way. They had a really strong passing attack. Quarterback Jonathan Jones was incredible for them. Let's take a quick look at our stats throughout the season. Obviously, the big storyline entering the year was the quarterback battle between true freshman Anthony Cortez III and C.C. Vaughn. Both players entered the year as 80 overalls, and I knew their skill sets were fairly similar, and they are similar players. AC3 was better, though. He was more efficient. He threw less interceptions, more touchdowns, more yards, all that good stuff. But C.C. Vaughn played very well in the national title game, and he went up 5 rating points during the season. So he's going to be probably around 4 to 6 ratings higher than Anthony Cortez III next year, which is interesting. I'm not having a QB battle next year, but I don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be. Looking at the run game, obviously Isaiah Sparks was incredible. He finished the year with 249 carries, nearly 1,700 yards, and a college football record 39 touchdowns. He finished with 42 all-purpose touchdowns on this season. But I think the incredible thing about our run game is that it wasn't just Isaiah Sparks. When Alex Ellis won his 2 Heisman trophies back in the day in seasons 5 and 7, Ellis was really the only guy getting touches out of the backfield. But that was not the case with this team. This was a running back by committee. Obviously, Sparks was the star of the show, but Sparks only had around 50% of our carries. Matt Miller and Irving Porter were both great compliments, and Tazwell Hubbard showed a lot of promise as a redshirt freshman, not to mention AC3 and CC Vaughn are both very mobile players. So, obviously, we were led by the run game on offense. Our pass game wasn't prolific. We had 2 true freshman quarterbacks playing, and because of that, we really did not have an alpha receiver. Our top 4 guys were all within around 100 yards of each other. I was hoping one of the seniors, Cassius Troy or Tegan Moon, would really take that next step. And it's not their fault that Keith Fleming declared for the draft last year, and had Fleming still been with the team, I imagine some of these guys' numbers would be a little bit better. But I think one of the more interesting things with our receiving game this year is that we got Isaiah Sparks involved a lot, and we got the tight end Lamar Gallagher involved a lot. I know Sparks and Gallagher don't have incredible receiving numbers, but obviously historically, Westlake does not throw to their running backs a lot, and they don't throw to their tight ends a lot. So Sparks and Gallagher having comparable receiving yards to the top 4 guys is really interesting. The offensive line was inconsistent at times. They had their good days, and they had their bad days. We lost a lot of pieces on defense last offseason, and I was expecting regression from this side of the ball, but that was not the case at all. Despite having 10 underclassmen start for us, we still had one of the best defenses in the nation. We were a little bit inconsistent and sloppy in the run game at times, but we forced a ton of pressure, and we got a ton of turnovers. Lou Roy led the team in tackles and tackles for loss. He had a great true freshman season. Speaking of great true freshmen, Jabari Achebe had 15 sacks. That led college football. Richard Rivers Jr., Big Tuna, was right behind him at 14 sacks. Tuna was the elder statesman of the defense. Of course, he is a senior. His ratings are absolutely ridiculous. He's going to be the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft for good reason, because he is an absolute stud. But he did not lead the team in sacks because Achebe had 2 in the national title game. Russell Ingram Jr. was probably the only player on this side of the ball I was disappointed with. Last year as a rotational pass rusher, he got 8 sacks. This year as a full-time 3-down player, he had 1 sack. He was better in the run game, but I was still disappointed. So, obviously, Achebe and Big Tuna led us in sacks. Noel Payne, the redshirt freshman, at 8. He was really solid. And, of course, Joe Lilly with an NCAA leading 10 interceptions. What a season for him. Obviously, he's a redshirt sophomore. He's draft eligible. We've had a lot of redshirt sophomore defensive backs leave us in recent years. If there's one player who I really don't want to declare for the draft, it is definitely Joe Lilly. Achebe in Phoenix with 3 fumble forces. Brandon Ralph recovered 2. Shanera DeBudga was the only one with multiple defensive touchdowns. Roy and Lilly had 1. One of the other interesting storylines this year was kicking. Obviously, kickers are not one of the most flashy positions, but Zebediah Phoenix is one of the most well-known players on this team. Phoenix started the year on a slump. He only made 6 of his first 12 field goals, but after the Boise State game, which I think was like our 5th game of the season, he did not miss after that. Phoenix went 16 of 16 the rest of the year. He has still not missed an extra point in his career. And then Mike Jenkins, the punter, what a bloody legend. We didn't do anything super special in the kick and punt returning. I would have liked to have seen more from Sparks as a returner. I gave him that role this year just so he could get more touches, and he wasn't bad, but he wasn't spectacular. Here's a look at the All-NCAA teams. Of course, Robert Madsen, the Heisman winner at quarterback, even though he should not have won Heisman. Isaiah Sparks and Kyle Harris make it for us on offense. And defense, we've got a lot of guys. Jabari Achebe, Richard Rivers Jr., Noel Payne. We also have Lou Roy, and our entire starting secondary. Joe Lilly, Brandon Ralph, Florentino Phoenix, and Shanera DeBudga. So the only non-starting defensive back is Justin Graves, and that's it. I'm surprised to see Ralph here. I really liked what Brandon Ralph did as our nickel corner next year, and if one or both of Joe Lilly and Justin Graves leave for the draft early, I would not want to move Brandon Ralph to the outside. I would probably keep him in the nickel. Looking at the second team All-NCAA, we have Amir Logan and Elton Smith on the offensive line. Winston Johnson makes it. I don't really agree with that. I like Winston Johnson. I think he had a pretty solid year, but I don't know if he deserves this. And Zebediah Phoenix II also gets All-NCAA second team. I'm a little bit surprised they gave it to him, to be honest, but he was the best kicker in college football for the second half of the season. The all-freshman team, of course, Anthony Cortez is there at quarterback. That's interesting. Avery Horn is there, Jabari Achebe, Noel Payne, Lou Roy, Gordon Waters, Key, and Michael Hopkins all made it. Some of these guys didn't have super big roles. Hopkins was our 4th corner on the depth chart, but I guess there weren't a ton of other choices. Here's the All-Pac-12 first team. Isaiah Sparks, Amir Logan, Elton Smith, Kyle Harris, John Thompson, Jabari Achebe, Big Tuna, Noel Payne, Winston Johnson, Lou Roy, and then the same defensive backs who made the All-NCAA first team, along with Zebediah Phoenix. On the second team, there's Cassius Troy. I'm a little bit surprised he made it, but I'm happy to see him. Richard Golden, who is not a starter. Okay, that's odd. Russell Ingram Jr. made it, a little bit surprised. And that is it. So we had a lot of guys take home All-American honors. Here are the awards. Isaiah Sparks won the Maxwell. At least he beat Robert Madsen out in something. He also beat Madsen out for the Walter Camp Award. These are the 2 next biggest awards after the Heisman Trophy, so at least Sparks got recognition. Joe Lilly wins the Bednarik Award. We have 7 of the top 8, including everybody in the top 5. Winston Johnson also in 11th. For Nagurski, that award goes to Big Tuna. I think this award is mainly for front 7 players, so it's kind of wild that Joe Lilly made 10th. That just shows how good Lilly was. Robert Madsen wins the Davey O'Brien Award. The Doak Walker obviously goes to Isaiah Sparks. He was by far the best running back in college football this year. Voletnikoff goes to redshirt sophomore Albert Jones, who is a 76 overall. Cedric Gregg, by the way, he finished in the top 12. What a career for Cedric Gregg. He originally committed to our school, but then transferred to Washington State. In his 3 years with the Cougars, he got over 1,000 yards in all 3 seasons. That is really dadgum impressive. Kyle Harris finished 6th for the Outland Award, by the way. That's pretty cool. Elton Smith finished in 11th, and Smith finished in 5th for Remington. Lonnie Smith, who was in Elton's recruiting class, finished in 6th. We went after Lonnie in recruiting along with Elton Smith. It was ironic that they had the same last name, so it's good to see that our Smith is better than the other Smith. Here are the Lombardi Awards. Look at Vuskin Marzal in 3rd. He had a great season for Stanford, another player who I would have loved to have gotten in recruiting a few years back. Lubertz Roy wins the Best Linebacker Award. Winston Johnson in 6th. Again, a little bit surprised by that. I think Johnson's a good player, but I don't know if he really deserves that. Lubertz Roy does deserve to win that award, though. He was really good. And then Joe Lilly wins the Jim Thorpe Award. Not a major surprise. So we had a lot of guys take home awards, as you can see. A few more former players we went after in recruiting. Matthew Blunt and A.J. Little find themselves on the list. When we played Texas this year, I was really impressed with A.J. Little. He really developed into a good player. Zebediah Phoenix does not get in the top 12 for the Lou Groza Award, though. Wasn't he the All-NCAA second-team kicker? So shouldn't that mean he finishes 2nd for that award? I don't know. That doesn't make sense. But nonetheless, we had a lot of guys take home awards, and deservedly so. We were the best team in college football, even with all the young players we had. And look at this. Mason Conway is now a level 54. This is significant because the maximum level you can get a head coach up to in this game is 54. So that's an accomplishment I'm really proud of. Since I started this series, I really wanted to get Mason Conway to the max, and he did just that here after 15 seasons. Here's a look at all of the school records and NCAA records broken. Obviously, Sparks beating Barry Sanders' mark, Joe Lilly with the record for interceptions in a season in Westlake history, and Isaiah Sparks passing Alex Ellis for the most touchdowns in a season. So we've officially maxed out Mason Conway. He is a full level 54, which is really incredible. Let's take a look at the bowl results here. We have a few rivals in these games. Utah State got pummeled by Colorado. BYU beat Washington State. As we move forward, Rutgers beats Oregon. Didn't I say that Oregon was going to kill them? Looking at some other games, Rutgers, Oregon. The Ducks should demolish Rutgers. But congratulations to Rutgers for beating my Ducks. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. Looking at some other scores, Virginia Tech pummeled Mississippi State. Alabama over Illinois in the Capital One Bowl. Army beats UCF in the Rose Bowl. Take that, Madsen! UCF still finishes in 4th, though. Florida barely beats Hawaii in the Sugar Bowl. Florida remains in 3rd. So does that mean Michigan is still at number 2? Clemson beats Fresno State in the Orange Bowl. And yeah, Michigan will finish the season as number 2. I think Michigan deserves it. I think Michigan's a really good team, but I'm a little bit surprised by that. I don't disagree, but I just didn't really see it coming. So now the season is officially over. We're going to move on to the offseason. There are 5 players left on our recruiting board. Obviously, we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. But first, we obviously have to go through players leaving, coaching carousel, really all the depressing stuff of the offseason before we get to recruiting. Obviously, Mason Conway got a lot of XP. He won the NCAA Coach of the Year award for what it's worth. I think that's what propelled him to that maximum level 54. All-time record, by the way, we have 169 wins. Nice. So I'm not going to win a single game next year and for the rest of the series just so that does not get ruined. I'm kidding, but I wish I wasn't. So looking at the coaching changes, we do have a major change to the staff. Obviously, Mason Conway is still our head coach. Bill Clark is still the defensive coordinator, but we have a new offensive coordinator. It is Bill Bedenaw, who is also a max. So our head coach, our offensive coordinator, and our defensive coordinator all have their coaching trees maxed out. So we literally have the Avengers on our coaching staff, so we have no excuse not to repeat as national champions next year. I wanted to know where our previous offensive coordinator, Warren Ruggiero, ended up, and it turns out he did not leave for a better job, although he could have. Instead, he ended up retiring. So good to see Ruggiero going out on top, retiring as a Westlake Hornet. And here are all the coaching changes in the Pac-12, by the way. I don't think there were many significant ones. I think Arizona hired a new coach, and that's about it. Alrighty, time for players leaving. We had so many guys declare for the draft last year that we just don't have enough draft-eligible sophomores and juniors to have much of a hole as we lost last year. The only player we absolutely cannot lose is Joe Lilly, because that would be really bad. So let's simulate forward, and remember, all of these players will be in the upcoming draft class for the Jacksonville Jaguars franchise on Madden. So without further ado, let's see what happens. The one thing that we could not have happen, happens. Joe Lilly is leaving school early. He is declaring for the draft, along with Shenardo Budga, David Anderson, and Amir Logan. Remember, we cannot convince anybody for the rest of the series to stay who is declaring, so we have no choice but to have all of these players leave, which is sad, but it is what it is. Joe Lilly is absolutely going to be a first-round pick. He deserves to be a first-round pick. He did not play well in the national championship at all, but he played outstanding in the first 13 games of the year. He had one off game. Shenardo Budga declaring surprises me and kind of upsets me. For Shenardo's sake, I would have loved to have seen him stick around for another year or two, because I think he could have been one of the best safeties in college football. I know he made all NCAA first team, but it's so easy to get defensive All-Americans in this game, so I don't really count that as a major milestone. I wish he would have stuck around, but good for him. Go get your money. David Anderson, he doesn't really play. That's not a big deal. And Amir Logan, our starting left tackle. I had a weird feeling Amir Logan was going to declare. I don't really know why. So now we're going to have to focus on getting offensive tackle Blake Wilson here in the offseason even more, because he may need to start. We might have the camp battle for the left tackle position between him and redshirt freshman Antonio Osborne. We also have Ross Roach transferring to Temple. He's a 65 overall. I don't really care. Most of our seniors are projected to go in the first round. Irving Porter is projected to go undrafted. That does not surprise me, because NCAA 14 does not like short people. So let's talk about these seniors real quick, their legacies, their milestones. Cassius Troy obviously has been a very good player for us for the past 4 years. I feel like he's always been a little bit overshadowed by Carter Westwood. Both played for Burmester High. Both were in the same recruiting class. And Westwood's always been the better player. So for Cassius Troy's sake, you better hope that the Steelers don't pick him. Tegan Moon, he's been a solid player the past few seasons as well. If you remember, Tegan committed to us with his twin brother, Tristan Moon, who played corner. Tristan Moon declared for the NFL draft after his redshirt sophomore season, and Tegan could have left with him, but he decided to stick in school for another 2 years, and I'm happy he did. Losing Tegan Moon and Cassius Troy is certainly going to suck. They've been two very reliable receivers for us, but I have no doubt that both of them are going to be great pros in the NFL. Big Tuna, Richard Rivers Jr., the GOAT, and the projected #1 overall pick, who had an outstanding career for us. He was the #1 player in his recruiting class for good reason, and he's been probably the most dominant player in college football for a while. He is so gifted, he is so dominant, and he's going to be such a beast in the NFL. We're going to save Isaiah Sparks for last. Greg Coles got picked in the first round. He's technically not on our team anymore because we had him transfer to Alabama. Michael Dubzinski also gets picked. He never really played, but good for him for making some NFL dollars. So Irving Porter going undrafted doesn't really surprise me. He's never been a lead back. I think he might have led the team in carries as a freshman, but once we really got Isaiah Sparks going, Porter's role always kind of diminished. But Irving Porter's been a great player for us for a while. He's going to be a good NFL pro. 5'9", 189 is a very doable size in the NFL. This game just does not like short people. And then Tommy Weber, the 57 overall redshirt senior, goes undrafted. No way. But I have decided to save Isaiah Sparks for last. What a career and what a story. This is a guy who we were recruiting very early into his high school career. Once he was a senior, he had some off-field issues, and everybody, including us, took our scholarships off. He went to JUCO ball for a year. We were the only team who offered him a scholarship then, and obviously that decision really paid off. Sparks in his collegiate debut, if you remember, as a redshirt sophomore, had 2 carries for 114 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's when we knew he was going to be special, and sure enough, this year as a senior, should have won the Heisman Trophy and broke the record for rushing touchdowns in a season. He's going to kill it in the NFL, and who knows, maybe he'll be a Jacksonville Jaguar. That would be pretty interesting. Here's a look at all the players who declared early. Not a ton of household names around college football other than the players who were on our team. Of these players, I think the best one here is Joe Lilly. Joe Lilly's father, Jason Stewart, is declaring. Jason Stewart absolutely tormented Joe Lilly in the national title game. Mikael Harrison, I suppose, is interesting. He's a former Burmester High player. There's also a Washington fullback declaring for the draft. That's cool. Terrence Johnson, tight end out of Oregon, a guy we went after a number of years back. Here is a look at the players who almost declared but did not, including quarterback Carmen Casiano. Casiano was projected to be the #1 overall pick going into the year. He kind of struggled with Texas. Probably still would have been a first-round pick, considering it's a pretty weak QB class. But he's decided to stay in school. So Carmen Casiano will be removed from the draft class in the Jaguar series, and he will be put in next year's class. Here's a look at all the other players who entered the draft. Some of these rounds aren't necessarily correct. Like Leo Uwangale was a second-round pick here. In the Jag series, he's going to be a first-round pick. He's like a top 5 projected pick. Not a lot of these players are in the Jaguar series, just for ones from Westlake and anybody notable around college football. And again, these rounds are not necessarily where the players are actually going to go, because some of them I don't necessarily agree with. Like Joe Lilly was projected to go in the second round. There's no way he would fall out of the top 10. So Joe Lilly obviously would be a first rounder. But there are definitely some interesting players in here for sure who are going to have very fun careers at the next level in the NFL. And hey, maybe they'll even be drafted by our Jacksonville Jaguars. So let's simulate forward now, see who gets drafted, see our 0 transfer requests. Going to export the draft class to Madden 25. Hey, maybe for the series finale, maybe I actually do something on Madden 25 with these draft classes. That would actually be kind of cool. So here's a look at the draft results. Pretty much everybody went in their projected rounds. I think David Anderson and Amir Logan both went up 1 round compared to their projection. But other than that, everybody else went in the rounds that they were supposed to. So an incredible senior class, an incredible draft class. Definitely going to miss a lot of those players, but it's time to move on and move forward. No transfer requests, hashtag shocker. And that brings us to recruiting. We did a great job of doing in-season recruiting. We got a lot of guys late in the season. Because of that, there are only 5 more players on our board. Khalil Onobanjo, Pierluigi Savoca, Blake Wilson, Mike Williamson, and Ed Jenkins. These are the 5 players left. And it was certainly tough allocating points. I will get to my strategy with how I gave them their points in a minute. But here are all of the current players on scholarship who will be joining the school next year. Obviously, a lot of these guys will be redshirted. We don't have as many holes this year as we did going into last year. And we do currently have the #1 recruiting class in the nation. As of now, we have 4 5-stars and 10 4-stars. So hopefully we can increase both of those numbers and add some really good players. The only problem with our recruiting class is the guy who I've been really wanting all along, tight end Mustafa Achabe, committed to Georgia late in the season. So, yeah, this was my top target since the start, and we didn't get him. So, other than not getting Mustafa Achabe, it's been really good. Our backup plan at tight end, Kajante Winston, also did not commit here. So, it looks like our second-string tight end is going to be a 55 overall again. But let's look at the players we still have left. There's Khalil Onobanjo, who's a stud. This is the guy who might play as a true freshman, especially with Joe Lilly gone. He's really good, and we struggled in this battle. We never had him on a visit because 5 teams were able to schedule one with him before we could. We now kind of have a hole at strong safety, and I think Pierluigi Savoca could always move there, and he could play as a true freshman. Blake Wilson could also start as a true freshman with Amir Logan declaring. I'm probably going to move John Thompson to left tackle, and I think we're going to have a battle for right tackle. Athlete Mike Williamson was a low lock guy who I liked. He's probably going to play receiver. I know I said I was not going after any wide receivers in this year's recruiting class, but he was a low lock guy, so I didn't feel as bad. Ed Jenkins was another low lock guy. He's only a 72 overall, so he's not as good as these other 4 players. And it was certainly a challenge deciding how I wanted to use these points. Did I want to make big risks? Did I want to play it safe? And I think we did so well in season. I think it makes the most sense for us to play it safe. Onobanjo will be getting 6,600, Savoca will be getting 4,000, and Wilson will be getting 4,400. So nothing for Mike Williamson and nothing for Ed Jenkins. Hopefully those 2 guys commit. I wouldn't bet on it, but my top targets are Onobanjo, Savoca, and Wilson because they all fill bigger needs. We do not need wide receiver help at all. So we're going to simulate forward. If we can get 2 of 3 of the players we put points into, I think this would be a massive success. All right, here we go. The moment of truth. Who is committing to Westlake? Khalil Onobanjo and Blake Wilson are now Westlake Hornets. Of the 3 players we put points into, we got 2 of them. So I count that as a success. Mike Williamson is going to Vanderbilt. Pierluigi Savoca is unfortunately going to Utah. And Ed Jenkins, I'm pretty sure, is going to Texas. So we didn't necessarily get a major win. We didn't get all 3 of the players we put points into, but we got 2 of them. We only lost on Savoca by 910, which is kind of the stinger. We could have taken some points off of Wilson and put them into Savoca, and we could have taken off points on Onobanjo and put them into Williamson. But obviously, hindsight is 2020, and I mean, I'm happy we just got 2 of them. We played it safe. We didn't go for a major risk, and I think we did a fine job. So we end up, of course, with the #1 recruiting class in the nation. We finished with the most 5 stars, the most 4 stars, and we finished with one of the highest amount of players entering. Our 5 stars: Eugene Hill, Adam Rutledge, Foyet Akibola, Khalil Onobanjo, and Ron Davis. A lot of 4 stars and a lot of 3 stars. And hey, we finally beat UCLA in something because they finished with the 2nd best recruiting class. It's about damn time we beat those Bruins. Alrighty, on to position changes. Now that we know who is joining our team, we're going to make a few small moves. Marcus Crum will be moving over to right guard. Not a big deal. We have 5 athletes. Ron Davis is a really good quarterback. A lot of these guys are great quarterbacks, but my plan with him is to have him go to the secondary. He, for right now, will be a corner. I thought he would have been higher at 3 safety. I'm a little bit disappointed. Adam Rutledge, I kind of knew all along. I wanted him to be a running back. That's definitely his best position. Dominic Porter, my plan with him was to have him at corner, but we got 4 corners in this recruiting class and no receivers. So I know I said I was not going to get any receivers, but I sort of lied. Eugene Hill, he will move over to 3 safety. And then Chance Hunter, this player is a walk-on who we got. And he's actually not half bad at running back, a 71 overall. So maybe he ends up making the final roster, which would certainly be impressive for a player who I was introduced to 2 minutes ago. The other walk-ons we got were Riley Childs, a defensive end, and Joe Long, a linebacker. We also have 3 kickers currently. We don't need 3. I'm going to be moving Tate Sullivan over to punter. For my punters, I want accurate kickers, and for my kicker, I want someone who has power. James Simpson has a lot of power, and the punter, Tate Sullivan, has a lot of accuracy. So that's why I ended up doing that. On to one of the most fun parts of the offseason, training results. We only have 2 99s, and one of them doesn't count because it's Marsucio. Marsucio is obviously not on the team anymore. I don't know why I haven't cut him yet. CeCe Vaughn is a 90, and Anthony Cortez III is an 85. That's a 5 rating difference. So I have a very tough decision to make this preseason with who I want the starting quarterback to be. Another one of the big storylines entering the preseason is where Joe Kilpatrick will transfer to and where Jake Grover will transfer to. Matt Miller is a 95. Tazwell Hubbard is a 90. They're both going to be really good this upcoming season. As I said, Mo Rogers is now a 99 overall. Certainly a very talented receiver room. I think some of the young guys to watch out for will be Chet Kucharski. He will be our backup quarterback next year because of the 5 QBs we currently have on the roster. Only one of them is actually going to count. And then Isaiah Thomas III. He was the #1 overall player in last year's recruiting class. He's definitely going to have a big role on this team this upcoming season. The offensive line did a nice job of progressing. We are returning 4 of 5 offensive line starters. Jabari Achabe is an 88. Jacob Williams is an 85. I'm very intrigued by Williams. Russell Ingram is a 94. Here's the defensive tackle situation. I totally forgot about Vlad Van Vector. I wonder what his role is going to be this year. The linebackers as well doing a nice job. Bluebirds Roy is an 86. Winston Johnson, I think, is somewhere in the 90s. Justin Graves is a 96. Brandon Routh a 94. I'm probably going to have a battle for the second outside corner between Mike Hopkins and all of the true freshmen. Florentino Phoenix is a 94. Our highest rated non-true freshman strong safety is a 45. And Mike Jenkins went up 7. My plan was to cut Mike Jenkins because we have Tate Sullivan. But Jenkins is working, man. Maybe I don't want to release him. So here we are at the cutting players stage. We did not have to cut anybody last year because we lost so many guys in the offseason. But we currently have 79 guys on the roster. I'm going to cut the quarterbacks who technically don't count on the roster. We can't cut Jake Grover, though, which is annoying. We need at least 3 QBs. And technically, we're only going to end up with 1, which is kind of funny. The next player we're going to release is Steve Taylor. I don't really need him. Taylor is the only player to transfer to us in school history, so I'm a little bit sad about that one, but it is what it is. Center Quentin Merrill, he's not very good. Defensive end Riley Childs, again, not very good. And same can be said for Kenny Brown. Adam Thompson is a player I thought about cutting. I kind of wish I did now, but oh well, he's going to stick on the final roster. I wanted to release Cornelius Kelly, but we need at least 3 middle linebackers. I cut our 43 and 45 overall safeties, and I also released Joe Lawn. So that brings us to 70, and as you can see, Mike Jenkins is on the final roster. I was thinking I might as well redshirt Tate Sullivan, so I think Jenkins is going to be back as the full-time punter next year. It's also worth noting that walk-on Chance Hunter also made the final roster, which is pretty cool. So one of the major talking points going into the offseason is our conference switch. For a final season of the series, I've been planning that we will be moving to the independents. I've hinted about it last season, and now we're actually going to do it. We've been in the Pac-12 since season 5. We won 10 conference championships, and yeah, we were the best team in this conference for a decade. We're also going to bring BYU in the independents because whichever conference we've been in, BYU's always followed us. They're kind of like a little brother, so I figured I'd carry them along. For the sim seasons after next season, we will be moving back into the Pac-12, or maybe we'll do a different Power 5 conference. I don't know. There aren't a ton of other Power 5 conferences that would make geographic sense, but maybe we just want to have fun and say screw it, move to the SEC or something. So that will conclude this episode. Next time we will have the preseason. We are starting the season as the second-ranked team in the nation. I don't really know how we're not number 1, but okay, it looks like we have some adversity, and it's time to prove the haters wrong, baby. Hope everybody enjoyed the offseason. Let me know how you think we did, and I am out. Peace.